Parents of twins, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Thursday, April 10th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. The high going to be 51. Tonight and overnight, we'll have some showers, low 42. And then Friday, rain, high 49. I'm getting sick of all this weather. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 38, partly cloudy in Northport out on Long Island. It's 39 and clear in East Orange over in New Jersey. And it's 40 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Will the markets calm down with the 90-day pause on? The push is on to build a new casino in the Bronx. What are cops looking for in the woods on Long Island? Asbestos worries now in New York City schools. And the mayor of Toms River continues to do battle with John Bon Jovi. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. President Trump says no other president would have done what he did regarding the tariffs. He spoke outside the White House yesterday, shortly after announcing a 90-day pause on all tariffs for the most part, except for China.
People were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know. They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid.
I like the yippee. The pause excludes China, but the president says China wants to make a deal. The president expressed confidence that a trade deal would be made with every country. Wall Street reacting positively to the news, with the Dow just soaring by the end of the day. Here's more from the president.
A deal's going to be made with China. A deal's going to be made with every one of them. And there'll be fair deals. I just want fair. A tremendous amount of spirit from other countries, including China. China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how quite to go about it.
Yeah, so the president saying yesterday that sometimes it's not a negotiation until it is.
And it may not be a negotiation. It may not last. I mean, you know, things may be as that I think are not fair to us. Look, we've been ripped off by essentially everybody for 35 years.
So what he says and has been from day one about this, warning Americans we need to stay a little flexible and calm about everything going on.
A lot of times it's not a negotiation until it is. And that happens. And, you know, I said outside that you have to have flexibility to do it right, and that's what we have. And we brought everybody to the table.
What we're seeing right now is unprecedented in the history of international trade in terms of the level of tariffs that were proposed and the amount of change that's happening between the U.S. and so many different countries.
Yeah, so that's Seth Basham. He's an analyst with Wedbush Securities. Everybody, of course, weighing in on what's going to happen. It's just a guessing game, really, at the end of the day.
Right now, we're just seeing a pause in tariffs for 90 days. The reciprocal tariffs that he announced last week. And in the meantime, there'll be negotiations between the U.S. and other countries to see if they can reduce some of those initially planned tariffs.
Of course, at the end of the day, everybody just wants to make sure they're making money or that they keep the money that they have. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says he will not rule out now the possibility of delisting Chinese stocks on U.S. exchanges. In an interview with Fox Business yesterday, he said everything's on the table when it comes to the ongoing trade tensions between China and the U.S. Now, the Democrats pushing back against this narrative. They say that the president is chaotic. He called off this 90-day tariff, even though he said he was going to stick with it.
Many businesses are
This is, by the way, you probably recognize the voice, Senator Schumer.
Many businesses are just putting everything on hold. The desire to hire a new worker or train a new worker, the desire to build a new plant, the desire to try a new product, all on hold. Because nobody knows what the heck is going to happen next.
So, and then you have people who own businesses who say they are nervous, like especially people who are doing business overseas.
My wife runs an import-export business, and she
is from Italy, and she obviously has more duties to pay at the border, both going in and going out.
So now she won't, but maybe she will after this 90-day pause. It is a little confusing if you're a business owner. And then, of course, for people who are older, who maybe want to start cashing in on some of their savings, those people are worried as well.
Everyone that I know that's close to retirement age is really concerned about whether or not they're going to be able to retire.
I'm absolutely terrified. Why? Because I am supposed to start collecting Social Security soon, and that is what I'm going to live on when I retire, because my savings are very low and my 401k is disappearing.
Yeah, there was some people in Midtown Manhattan yesterday commenting on all this. 5:05. The search for survivors continues following that deadly roof collapse at a nightclub in the Dominican Republic on Tuesday. Correspondent Aaron McLaughlin reports that dozens of people spent the night at the site hoping for word about missing friends and family in the rubble.
According to officials, some of them have said that they received phone calls from their loved ones trapped inside the rubble. Now this is very much a race against time to find any remaining survivors.
Can you imagine how horrifying that would be to get a phone call from somebody amid the rubble and then not able to find them? Can't even imagine. The collapse claims more than 113 lives now. Of course, you probably know that two of the people there were baseball players. Octavio Dotel played for the Yankees, I think, and the Mets. There were one of the singers, the singer who was on stage at the time during this concert when the roof collapsed. He died as well.
Video from inside the club at the time of the roof collapse shows famed merengue singer Ruby Perez. He was on stage at the time of the collapse performing. He is now counted, according to officials, among the dead, as well as two former Major League Baseball players.
So Ruby Perez, of course, if you don't know, is a big merengue singer in the Dominican community, and so that's why this place was just packed with people to see him sing. There was a fire in this club back in 2023.
This nightclub caught fire due to a lightning strike. Unclear if that fire is a factor in any way in the roof collapse. Also unclear when this building was last inspected. So there's lots of questions in terms of what exactly happened and what caused this tragedy.
Now, the owner of this nightclub, and the club's been around forever, the Jet Set Club, 2 or 3 decades of concerts, was out of the country, came back home, so he's very involved in trying to figure out exactly what took place. And I think I gave a wrong number. They said 113 lives initially. It's actually more than 124 that have been killed in that collapse. And then up in, there's this makeshift memorial up in Upper Manhattan, which is home to one of New York's largest Dominican communities, and people say they know people who were caught up in this Jet Set nightclub in Santo Domingo.
I can only imagine how much hurt a lot of people are going through right now and how exhausting and, scary it might be to know that your loved one is there and you might not ever get that closure, know?
I'm still freaked out by the people getting phone calls from people in the rubble. That's just awful. WABC News Time 5:09. After fighting to stay open, a Lower Manhattan hospital closed its doors yesterday.
An East Village hospital is closing after an appeals court ruled against the latest bid to keep it open. Mount Sinai Beth Israel officially closed April 9th after 135 years, meaning the closest ERs are now NYU Langone and Bellevue.
We don't have a hospital under 28th Street, so if there's an emergency, a heart attack, or somebody gets shot, they have to drive over 3 miles.
Mount Sinai wanted to shut the East 16th Street facility last July due to financial issues. Advocates are looking at possible legal options. I'm Lisa Ritchie, 77 WABC News.
Let's head down to Washington, D.C. Republicans want to limit the power of district judges preventing nationwide injunctions, and that's drawn a swift rebuke from Democrats like California's Pete Aguilar.
Republicans just aren't playing fair.
He was joined by fellow Democrat Ted Lieu, who said that Republicans have no problem with nationwide injunctions when it's an issue that appeals to their base. So, normal back and forth between Democrats and Republicans.
Just like elections, they believe the results only when their person wins.
This all came up because President Trump wanted Congress to impeach Judge James Boasberg, who ruled against the use of the Alien Enemy Acts for swift deportations. 5:11, the Trump administration freezing more than $1 billion dollars now in federal funding for Cornell University.
Cornell is under investigation following allegations of anti-Semitism and racial discrimination connected to the institution's diversity initiatives. Cornell says they're still seeking information after receiving 75 stop work orders from the Defense Department, adding the funding freeze impacts grants that support research they call significant to American defense, cybersecurity, and health. It comes as Northwestern University in Chicago loses $760 million in funding, with federal money for Columbia, Harvard, and Brown also under threat. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
And federal officials continue to revoke the visas of international students at colleges across the country. A bunch here in the city yesterday. We'll get that in the second half hour. Federal officials revoking more than 120 international visas of students at a bunch of colleges across California yesterday. Immigration advocates argue it's an unfair way to punish or to push students out of the country.
And that's what the Trump administration wants. That's what they're attempting to do here, and we need universities to step up to protect their students.
That's the director of the Council on American Islamic Relations in San Francisco. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security will start to monitor immigrants' social media for anti-Semitism. In a statement, the DHS says anti-Semitic activity on social media, as well as physical harassment of Jewish people, will be considered as grounds for denying immigration benefit requests. The DH adding that there's no room in the U.S. for the rest of the world's terror sympathizers and that we're under no obligation to admit or let them stay here. The Adams administration also going to allow the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement now to set up an office at Rikers Island.
First Deputy New York City Mayor Randy Mastro signed an executive order to allow the Correction Department's Criminal Intelligence Bureau to work with ICE on investigations related to violent criminals, gangs, and drug trafficking. The move is being criticized by City Council Speaker Adrian Adams and the New York Civil Liberties Union. They say Mayor Adams' administration is selling out New Yorkers in deference to President Trump's dangerous deportation game. Jeff McKinney, 77 WABC News.
Let's head down to Florida. Attorney General Pam Bondi, along with FBI Director Kash Patel, on hand as the U.S. Coast Guard offloaded $500 million worth of pure, uncut cocaine from the cutter at Port Everglades.
This is not a one-off for General Bondi. She has made this a mission priority, and the FBI will follow.
Bondi says 11 separate prosecutions resulted from this effort, and they will be tried in Florida courts.
This team used drones, aircraft, and ships to interdict the traffickers off the coast of Peru, Ecuador, and the Galapagos Islands.
They say they're going hard after the drug cartels that are in the Pacific and in the Atlantic. And there's another high-profile bust, and they brought the cameras on, hoping to intimidate others who may try to sneak drugs into the country.
These drugs are worth over $500 million. Almost 45,000 pounds of cocaine, pure cocaine, uncut, and 3,800 pounds of marijuana.
Bondi says she'll watch on anxiously as these drug traffickers are brought to justice in the court system in Florida.
Two cartels, CJ&G and Sinaloa, were heavily tied to these shipments. 11 separate prosecutions will take place as a result of this, and they will be prosecuted in the Middle District of Florida.
WABC News Time 514. The quest to make the government more efficient is focusing on federal real estate, with lawmakers now looking to sell off a lot of unused property, especially in places like Washington, D.C. Congressman Pat Phelan says the vast majority of government offices are half empty today.
Clearly, when you read government reports, even pre-COVID, we didn't need the space that we had. We had too much.
Texas Republican says the cost to keep federal offices open is just billions of dollars. And if that's taken off the book, of course, books rather, that's big savings for the taxpayers.
Now, you're talking about very expensive real estate in Washington, D.C., New York City, San Francisco. Unload these buildings to save the taxpayers, not the super rich evil people, the taxpayers, some money.
Lawmakers at a hearing this week made it clear that some offices that are linked to national security, of course, would be saved from this purge. 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Friday Eve. Good morning, Justin Allen.
I thought you were going to say happy Friday for a second.
No, I wish. One more day.
One more day. All right. That's good motivation to get me through the day here. Out in Detroit, we'll start here on the Diamond Gnome. Max Fried threw 7 scoreless innings to outduel high school teammate Jack Flaherty. Ben Rice hit a 2-run homer in the 7th, and Aaron Judge drove in 2 more runs to help the Yankees hold off the Tigers 4-3. Tigers loaded the bases against Devin Williams with 2 outs in the 9th, scored 1-1 on a wild pitch, and chased the righty on Zach McKinstry's 2-run single to pull within a run. Williams so far this season has a 12 ERA. He's going to have to step it up if he wants to earn that paycheck. Mark Leiter Jr. entered and ended the threat, getting Justin Henry Malloy out on a game-ending fly for his first save. New York, which avoided getting swept in the 3-game series, stopped a 3-game losing streak and snapped Detroit's 5-game winning streak. Fried gave up 5 hits and had 11 strikeouts, 2 short of the career high he set last June at Boston. Up next for the Yankees, they'll host the San Francisco Giants tomorrow night in the opener of a 3-game weekend set. Out in Queens, the Mets got blanked 5-0 by the Marlins, failing to complete a series sweep of Miami and also snapping their 6-game winning streak. The Mets hit just 2 balls out of the infield before Francisco Lindor's single up the middle with 1 out in the 6th. New York honored the Big East Conference champion St. John's basketball team and its Hall of Fame coach Rick Pitino before the game. Red Storm forward Zuby.
Now, why did they honor them exactly?
I'm not really sure. No, apparently, I guess you win the conference. That's all great and dandy. But a second-round underwhelming exit out of the NCAA men's basketball tournament is clearly enough to be honored at Citi Field before the Mets game.
Well, I don't know if I would have done that.
And I don't even think, because R.J. Lewis Jr. is in the transfer portal. He's also declared for the NBA draft. He was your best player all season. And I don't even think he was there because he's in the transfer portal and maybe even going to the NBA. So, a little weird. Is
it like everybody gets a trophy?
See, that's sort of the way it feels, right? Like it's sort of like a participation thing. Hey, great job. Everybody give these guys a standing ovation for being just
showing up,
for being better than mediocre.
Right.
So, okay, great. Good for them. I guess they couldn't find somebody else to throw out the ceremonial first pitch. Coming up next for the Mets, will travel to Sacramento to open up a 3-game weekend series tomorrow night against the A's. To the NHL at the Garden, the Rangers put themselves on the brink of elimination from the playoff race with an 8-5 loss at the hands of the visiting Philadelphia Flyers. Vincent Trocheck, Artemi Panarin, Johnny Brodzinski, JT Miller, and Chris Kreider scored for the Rangers, who trail Montreal by 8 points for the second wildcard spot in the East. The Rangers and Canadians each have 4 games left. The bright spot, longtime Rangers television play-by-play boy Sam Rosen, who is retiring after a 40-year career in the booth, was joined by former partner John Davidson for one more broadcast on TNT. It was very cool. Up next for the Rangers, they'll visit the Islanders tonight in Elmont. Puck drop is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. No action on the NBA last night, but looking ahead to tonight, both local teams back in business. The Knicks will be in Detroit, facing off against the Pistons, and the Nets will welcome in the Hawks. The Knicks will start at 7 p.m. Nets will tip off at 7:30.
This is the end of the season, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The weekend's over, right? By the weekend, it's over?
Yeah, should be.
Already playoff time, right?
I believe so. This is the last week of the regular season. Yes, indeed. Okay. How about that? So, your Knicks will probably, more than likely, end up with that 3 seed, and the Nets, they're just playing for pride. All right, that's your sports. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 521. Skeletal remains have turned up in a search connected to the MS-13 gang members out on Long Island.
Nassau County Police and the FBI searched Underhill Preserve in Jericho Wednesday after a tip from an MS-13 member in custody. The crews were looking for a specific gang victim. News 4 New York reports they're also looking for victims or clues about other attacks or murders in the area. The remains will be tested to check the victim's ID and how the person died. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Was talking about this latest story with my good friend James Flippin during his overnight show, which you can hear from 2 to 5 right here, 77 WABC. President Trump has signed an executive order to make America's showers great again.
Trump on Wednesday signed an order to roll back water pressure regulations enforced by former Presidents Biden and Obama that limit the flow from a shower head to a maximum of 2.5 gallons per minute. The new Trump executive order will allow for the same amount of water to flow through each individual nozzle on the shower head. The White House says the executive order will end the Obama-Biden war on water pressure and make America's showers great again. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Yeah, nothing better than a hot, shower with good pressure. Nothing better. 522, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is America's new ambassador to Israel. A Senate vote held yesterday, which stayed mainly along party lines.
On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 46. The nomination is confirmed.
So Huckabee was later sworn in at the Arkansas state capitol, an evangelical Christian who has opposed a two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians. Huckabee has repeatedly said his number one priority in the role of ambassador will be to advance President Trump's policy agenda. 523, the 18-wheeler next to you on the highway may not have anyone behind the wheel. Yeah, they're starting out these self-driving technology on big rig trucks, which is, anyway, a little frightening. The company is called Aurora. They're launching their first autonomous big rig this month. It'll be down in Texas, which has some truckers there, and truckers probably all over the country paying close attention because it could potentially mean their jobs. And also they're worried about these autonomous trucks being next to them on the road.
If we weren't worried, we wouldn't be paying attention to the policies, to the legislation, to the regulations, to the things that we need to be paying attention to.
That's John Esperanza. He heads a trucking association. He says they support the move towards automation along the highways. He says there will always be a need for drivers in urban settings. He doesn't think they'll be able to do the autonomous thing in places like New York City. 524, former First Lady Michelle Obama talking about the importance of making her own decisions. She was on a podcast yesterday, and she addressed people gossiping about her marriage. Remember when she did not show up to Jimmy Carter's funeral, and then she did not show up to the Trump inauguration, even though her husband was at both of those events. There was lots of talk that maybe something was going on between her and her husband.
They couldn't even fathom that I was making a choice for myself, that they had to assume that my husband and I are divorcing. This couldn't be a grown woman just making a set of decisions for herself.
Yeah, so clearly maybe it was a statement. That was some of the thought by her not showing up to the Trump inauguration, who she is not a fan. Obama emphasized the importance of asking herself tough questions in this stage of her life. And so she says part of that is choosing to spend time in places she wants to choose to spend time. So I guess that included the Carter funeral and the Trump inauguration, that she opted, both of those events she opted out of.
That's what society does to us. We start actually finally going, what am I doing? Who am I doing this for? And if it doesn't fit into the sort of stereotype of what people think we should do, then it gets labeled as something negative and horrible.
Yeah, so clearly she felt the need to speak out that the marriage is doing just fine. 525, Prince Harry in a London court this week arguing a UK government decision to provide him with police protection on a case-by-case basis when he visits the country. Of course, he's no longer a member of the royal family. Here's Stuart Smith.
His lawyer said that is an exceptional process that is unjustified and inferior to the usual process, and that the prince wanted the same risk assessment to be used for him as any other high-profile public figure would receive.
Yeah, when Harry and his wife Meghan stepped down as members of the royal family, that was back in 2020, the government decided they would not be entitled to the same level of taxpayer-funded protection. So this hearing appeals a previous court ruling that the government's decision was lawful. But Harry went all the way to the UK to fight this. He says, hey, when I come to the UK, I should get the same protection I had before.
The government says the Duke of Sussex's understanding of the process is inappropriate and formalist. The trial continues until Wednesday, with a result expected later. Prince Harry's lawyer told England's Court of Appeal that the previous judgment was incorrect, that the UK's Home Office, which manages policing, was applying non-standard procedure in assessing the risk to the Duke of Sussex, which left him feeling unsafe and worried for the safety of his family.
Yeah, the thought is he's not going to win this battle and he'll have to pay for his own protection when he visits his family back in the UK.
77 WABC News Hour. Talking the news with Noah Layden on 77 WABC. You're listening to the #1 Nielsen rated. The News Hour with Noam Layden. Thank you for listening. 77 WABC. Talk Radio 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the news with Noah on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:35. Good morning. It is Thursday, April 10th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. The high going to be 51. Tonight and overnight, we'll have some showers, low 42. And then Friday, rain, high 49. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 38, partly cloudy in Northport out on Long Island. It's 39 and clear in East Orange over in New Jersey. And it's 40 and some scattered clouds right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour out on Long Island. Heavy law enforcement presence descending on this normally quiet stretch of woods in Nassau County yesterday afternoon. Federal local agencies could be seen walking through the Underhill Preserve in Jericho. FBI, Homeland Security agents seen combing through this area near the Cedar Swamp Road. The Nassau County Medical Examiner's Office is on the site as well. And this is right across the street from Jericho High School. So, of course, it was catching the attention of parents, students, and staff there. They wanted to know what was going on.
Oh, my God, it's so scary. It's because my daughter, they go to school here, all the children.
It's definitely frightening to see, especially by a school building.
Yeah, so when federal officials confirmed there was an investigation underway, they have not provided really any details of what prompted the activity or what they may have found. But what we have been told is this all connected to the gang MS-13, which has been known to dump bodies in the woods in Long Island in the past. So the police deploying a K-9 unit there yesterday. Nassau County Police crime scene investigators were also present on the scene. Of course, as more details come in on this story, we'll pass them on to you. WABC News Time 5:39. Some uproar on local college campuses yesterday. Department of Homeland Security revoking student visas at CUNY and at Fordham up in the Bronx. CUNY said that 17 international students had a change in visa status as of yesterday. Some students on the campus there worry the White House is attacking free speech on their campus.
It's definitely worrisome. It's just really unfair because I feel like CUNY is a place where people can come and really feel safe in the environment.
I think it's really scary. A lot of students here I know are immigrants and they came here to get a proper education.
Meanwhile, up in the Bronx, Fordham University, the Department of Homeland Security revoked the visas of 2 students there. According to a letter sent to the university by Fordham, they say the growing number of students from a wide range of countries had their visas revoked without explanation. That's according to the president of Fordham University. First student's visa was revoked over the weekend, another one on Tuesday. And so not clear whether those students will have to go back to their home countries immediately. It's also not clear why those visas have been revoked. Now, we've seen other cases where the visas have been revoked, where the claim from the Department of Homeland Security is that these students were involved in or connected to terrorist activities like Hamas and that kind of thing. But we don't know the case here. University does not believe, though, that the students that had their visas revoked in the last 24 hours were connected to any protests at either of these schools. And students on campus, they want to know what's going on.
Everyone has their own beliefs, and you shouldn't be targeted for speaking up about what you think is right and what you believe in. So it doesn't matter if you're a foreign student.
Now, what's not clear is maybe these students took part in pro-Palestinian demonstrations off campus, but we don't have any clarification from the Department of Homeland Security, who, by the way, also announced yesterday that they would start scrubbing, going through people's social media, international students' social media, to see what they're posting online. 5:41. You can now write a happy ending for nearly 200 cats that have been rescued after that Long Island shelter fire.
Their stories began in tragedy. More than 100 cats at the Happy Cat Sanctuary in Medford died, along with the shelter's owner, Chris Arsenault, in a fire at the shelter March 31st. 57 more dead cats were found on the property this week. But more than 180 cats survived, and after some care and cleanup, they're now ready to find their forever homes. Applications and photos of those cats are available online. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Some intense crime moments in the city yesterday. So this one's bad. A man recovering after being stabbed in the head multiple times. This was in Midtown. This vicious attack, 32nd and 5th Avenue, right? 12:30 in the afternoon. Totally random. That's what police think. This guy, they were just looking for money from this 33-year-old victim. Again, this is 32nd and 5th Avenue. I mean, there's a lot of people at that corner probably at 12:30 in the afternoon on their lunch hour or just walking around the city. So police say this 33-year-old was pushed to the ground, stabbed multiple times in the head. The people who did this, the attackers, forcibly removed money from his pants pockets before running off. And people who are on this block or say they spend a fair amount of time walking through this neighborhood say this is totally freaking them out.
It's dangerous, yo. You got homeless. You got guys over here, every corner over here, with pipes sleeping there. If you tell them anything, they're angry. They get up, they get angry.
Other New Yorkers who were walking through this neighborhood, seeing the crime scene tape, say enough is enough already.
Not surprised, unfortunately.
Why is that?
We're too soft on crime. And people with mental health issues and violent tendencies, repeat offenders, need to be removed off of the streets.
Yeah, so the victim taken to Bellevue Hospital. He's in stable condition, but geez. Police now looking for one or two people. So far, there have been no arrests. 5:43 up in the Bronx, scene that was somewhat similar. Police searching for a group of gunmen who were on mopeds who fired up the neighborhood with bullets. A 26-year-old man took a bullet to the left ankle. A 52-year-old man shot in the lower back. Again, they think this is random. They're not sure who these people were shooting at. It was near a sneaker store where people ran into the sneaker store looking for cover.
I was scared in the back. So my boss was here too. We see outside and the people was scared too, like running here. So it was crazy.
Yeah, of course. The victim's taken to St. Barnabas Hospital. I mean, the good news is they're going to be okay, but they were shot. So it takes a while, of course, to recover from being shot. So police tell us they're looking for 4 men who were wearing dark color clothing, were on mopeds, wildly firing their guns on East Fordham Road, broad daylight, before fleeing the scene. So another one where in the middle of the day, they're fearless, shooting at people. And they're not even clear why they were shooting at people. I imagine there was some target, somebody they were looking for, but they clearly did not hit that person because police say the people that took bullets yesterday were all innocent bystanders just shopping in the neighborhood.
This is a problem. More people who have a gun. This is bad for the gun. It's bad for I can't work. I can't because you will be scared all time.
Yeah. This guy who owns a business in the neighborhood. The double shooting comes just days after shots were fired, you'll remember, in a Wendy's up in the Bronx. 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ellen.
Noam Layden, Louie and I were just discussing our wagers for the Masters tournament coming up here. You got anything lined up?
Well, give me a couple golfers' names, and I'll pick one.
All right. Well, I mean, the favorites here are
Jack Nicklaus. Is he playing?
McIlroy is a favorite.
McIlroy.
Yeah.
What about Jack Nicklaus? Is he in this?
See, I'm trying to have a serious conversation with you, and now you're bringing up some 90-year-old.
He didn't make the cut.
He did not. Because who's that guy that did the lemonade and the iced tea together? Arnold Palmer.
He's dead. Okay.
I think he should.
Before you say something stupid, he's dead. All right.
Okay.
Chichi Rodriguez is making he's coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
Putting
What's his name?
putter in the sword.
Yeah, Lou Trevino will be out there.
Or Lee.
Yeah.
I'm Lou Trevino.
Lou
Trevino, yeah. He's a great golfer.
We all
Top
look
of mind.
alike.
Arnold Palmer does not get enough credit for inventing that drink, that iced tea and lemonade.
Well, and then you spike a little tequila vodka in there. My goodness gracious! Now we're cooking with gas.
I'm sure he was doing that too.
Now you got a massive party.
So yeah, I mean, McIlroy's a big favorite here. This guy, this Swedish guy, Ludvig Eiberg.
Never
I think
heard
that's
of him.
how you say it. He's got good odds to go out there and win it. Zalatoris.
What about
Will
Tiger?
Zalatoris? No, he's not playing in it this year because he's got a bad Achilles. He's always hurt.
Yeah.
And then Colin Morikawa, the American, he has good odds to win it as well. So we'll see. I mean, I'm going to be jumping around all weekend doing these head-to-heads, every day. pretty much every round you can pick 2 golfers in the group and say, I think this guy's going to shoot better than this guy. And that's sort of the most fun way to go about it, I guess, you know. But do gamble responsibly. Do gamble responsibly, all right? Please.
What a great way to enjoy and relax.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And you can enjoy a spiked Arnold Palmer while you do it.
Right, exactly.
All right.
What a great Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it sounds delicious to me. Just give me an ottoman, and I'm good to go. To the MLB here out in Detroit. Noam All-Layden, Max Fried threw 7 scoreless innings down to a high school teammate, Jack Flaherty. Ben Rice hit a 2-run homer in the 7th, and Aaron Judge drove in 2 to help the Yankees hold off the Tigers 4-3. Up next for the Yanks, they'll host the San Francisco Giants tomorrow night in the opener of a 3-game weekend set. Out in Queens, the Mets got blanked 5-0 by the Marlins, failing to complete a series sweep of Miami and also snapping New York's 6-game winning streak. Coming up next for the Mets, they'll travel to Sacramento to open up a 3-game weekend series tomorrow night against the A's. To the NHL at the Garden, the Rangers put themselves on the brink of elimination from the playoff race with an 8-5 loss at the hands of the visiting Philadelphia Flyers. Trocheck, Panarin, Brodzinski, Miller, and Kreider scored for the Rangers, who trail Montreal by 8 points for the second wildcard spot in the East. The Rangers and Canadiens each have 4 games left. There was a bright spot, though. Longtime Rangers television play-by-play voice Sam Rosen, who is retiring after a 40-year career in the booth, was joined by former partner John Davidson for one more broadcast on TNT, and that was fun. Up next for the Rangers, they'll visit the Islanders tonight in Elmont. Puck drop there is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. A New Jersey woman facing charges in a murder-for-hire plot.
26-year-old Jacqueline Diorio was arrested after messaging who she thought was a hitman but was actually a confidential informant. Prosecutors say she offered the fake hitman $12,000 to kill her 53-year-old ex-boyfriend, who is an officer with the Philadelphia Police Department, and his 19-year-old daughter. She met the supposed hitman on Tinder and exchanged several calls and texts. She met the informant at a Dollar General store and gave him $500 as a down payment. That's when officers swarmed Diorio. She's in custody facing charges including attempted murder and conspiracy. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
5:50, let's bring it back here into the city. New York City hiring lots of teachers for next school year to better comply with state-mandated classroom size. Mayor Adams announcing that 3,700 teachers will be hired at nearly 750 schools, which will help make classrooms smaller.
More nurturing classroom where all our students can excel and be provided more individualized care.
The mayor says every classroom will be capped at 20 students for K through 3rd grade.
Enabling our teachers to work with smaller groups of students, providing more individualized attention, and fostering a deeper level of engagement in the classroom.
That's the school's chancellor. 5:51, an audit from the New York City Comptroller's office shows hundreds of public schools here in the city have neglected to conduct asbestos inspections as required by federal law. The comptroller, Brad Landry, who's also running for mayor, I'll point out, says federal law requires schools be inspected for asbestos-containing material every 3 years. But a report from his office shows between 2021 and 2024, only 250 schools have been checked.
In other words, 82% of the schools with asbestos-containing materials did not get their licensed triennial inspection.
Now, he says the Department of Education blames its lack of compliance on insufficient consulting contracts, but he says it's a systematic issue that goes back for decades, that they're putting kids in classrooms with asbestos.
Unfortunately, our audit found that the city is wildly out of compliance. PS 88 in Queens, where the mayor is going to be at noon today, which hasn't had an inspection by a licensed asbestos inspector since 2011, 14 years ago.
Yeah, so he says the city's got to get on top of it. 5:52, let's go up to the Bronx. Despite local community board voting overwhelmingly against the Bowie's Casino and Hotel project there, the plan is still moving forward to the Bronx Borough president's desk. So yesterday they had public testimony being heard at the Bronx Borough Hall. Long list of city and state approvals they need to get the green light in order for Bowie's to move forward with its plan to bring a massive state-of-the-art casino and hotel to Throgs Neck. Now, just regular Bronxites were showing up saying, hey, what does this mean for our community? Does it mean jobs, money for us?
If this proposal for this Bally's can give jobs, training, and all, I am more for it.
All right, so that's one person on board. 3 approvals are being discussed, including the elimination of roughly 16 acres of parkland at Ferry Point Park. That's the site of the proposed development, so some people are upset about that. Others say, hey, I've seen this before. Casinos come in, they promise the world, and the community doesn't really make out. Now, you can look at Atlantic City as one example of that.
We work paycheck to paycheck, and they promise everything. Every little project, they come here, and then we wind up with nothing.
Yeah, so Bally's must submit its full proposal to the New York State Gaming Commission by June 27th. 523... An East Village hospital shutting down yesterday after an appeals court ruled against the latest bid to keep it open, leaving many in that neighborhood concerned about a lack of access to medical care. It was Mount Sinai Beth Israel officially closed its doors Wednesday morning after 135 years of service to that community.
We don't have a hospital under 28th Street, so like if there's an emergency, let's say Canal Street, there's an emergency, a heart attack, like how are we, or somebody gets shot, like they have to drive over 3 miles.
Yeah, that's somebody in the community. So the closest ER now would be NYU Langone in Bellevue, which is, the other side of town.
Probably condominiums, really luxurious condominiums. Just what we need, right?
That's a woman speculating on, but what happened to that hospital now that it's been shut down?
Doesn't bother me. I'll go to Bellevue if I have to.
Yeah, so others say, okay, bye-bye hospital. New York City wants to revamp its scaffolding structures. That I've been warning you for years about scaffolding, is that I could do a story every single day, I'm not kidding, about something falling from scaffolding. So if you see scaffolding, walk to the other side of the street. But Mayor Adams signing off on new rules yesterday that allow more design choices for scaffolding, require more lighting, and most importantly, impose stricter time limits, because sometimes that scaffolding seems to go up and then never come down.
As long as people can see it for their safety, that's all that matters. I couldn't care less about what colors they.
I seen that white scaffolding they were talking about that looks more presentable, but I guess that costs more to design to make it look good.
I think for people who live around there, so if it's more residential building, no one really cares about that. People just care about whether or when it's going to be gone.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, for the businesses under the scaffolding, numbers go down and they want it gone as fast as possible too.
If they're not doing any construction, why are they up? Yeah. Which is most of the time the problem. That's the issue. You never see anyone doing anything, but you see scaffolding up forever.
It's a hidden secret in the construction world. Somewhere along the line, somebody's making more money.
Yeah.
This will be up longer than the actual work itself being done.
It is amazing when you walk around the city. Sometimes you get so used to it, you're like, wait a minute, this scaffolding's been up for a couple of years. So this bill is hopefully going to stop that from happening. And let's end with a happy story. Remember we told you about this 81-year-old woman from the Bronx yesterday who took her pet parrot, her emotional support pet parrot, I'll point out, to Puerto Rico with her. And then when she was at the airport to get back to the Bronx from Puerto Rico, they told her she could not bring her parrot on board. And so she's been stuck in Puerto Rico because she doesn't want to leave the parrot behind. Well, all the news about that parrot and this woman being denied access to a flight home got her on a plane. So she, as of this morning, she was on an overnight flight from Puerto Rico back here to the U.S.
I got no more tears. My mind is blank. I just want to go home. That's all. I don't ask for much.
Yeah, so that's Maria, who probably is in her Bronx apartment with her parrot as we speak.